Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty show. Tonight we're going to be talking some Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, and the NFL Combine. But first of all, we're going to start with my boy Mike Evans coming back to Tampa. 2 years, $52 million. Just increases the likelihood. Baker coming back. I've seen the numbers out there. It looks like it might be 3 years for $120 million to bring Baker back. I don't think it helps out Chris Godwin, but in the long run, it helps the offense out in Tampa. I don't see Trey Palmer's value helping now, so those shares that you had of him, maybe you can get something for him. Otherwise, probably cut him loose this offseason for some new rookies. But again, talking Mike Evans, very good news for Tampa. I think that they can continue to try and dominate the South and maybe get a little further this season. Who knows? Not going to bet on it, but I did enjoy the ride last year. So Mike Evans' value in fantasy right now, at least in Dynasty, I would say somewhere around an early to mid-second. Those seconds definitely got a little more valuable over the last weekend. Seeing as the NFL Combine just went about as good as possible for almost every wide receiver coming into the NFL draft this year. They all had a great weekend. Very few of them disappointed. The only reason that any of them lost value was because of the risers. All right. The running back crew that's coming into the NFL this year also didn't disappoint. So again, all of those second and now third rounders in the running back department, their value increased. So just looking at the NFL Combine as a whole, it was a very good day for the incoming rookies. And for all of you who went out there and scooped up extra seconds and thirds over the last month or so, definitely benefited you. If you took my advice and jumped on some of those 107, 108, and 109 picks, those picks also increased value. So I would still hang on to them now, see how much they can increase over the next couple of months here, right before the NFL draft, and just hang on to them, be patient, and you will be rewarded. Now, talking specifically with the NFL Combine, there were a couple of notable extreme risers. First of all, Rome Odunze, he did nothing to hurt his stock. He had a phenomenal combine. Some people now like him almost as much as Malik Neighbors. Some have him ahead of him even. But again, if you had a pick in the 106, 107 range, you got to be real happy right now and feel very nice and safe with what you're getting in either Odunze, maybe Brock Bowers. You could still take a quarterback there probably if you need to. But right now, I'm really liking all the picks up to 108. And then 109 probably is looking at Brian Thomas right now from LSU. He did nothing to hurt his stock. As far as the receivers go, once you get past Marv and Neighbors, Rome, and Brian Thomas, that's where it kind of cuts off as far as who I look at as possible wide receiver ones for franchises in the NFL. After that, you're looking at more complementary receivers. But, of course, those guys didn't disappoint either, especially Xavier Worthy. I mean, he just ran a 4.21. I guess that's pretty good. But we all knew he was fast already. So does it really increase his stock? I don't know so much. I do think that his teammate in college, A.D. Mitchell, definitely bumped himself up. I do see him, he is relatively fitting in the same area. I would put him ahead of Troy Franklin now, I guess. But in general, he's still in that pack there, right after the 108 pick or 109 pick. You still have Ladd McConkey as well, who didn't do anything to hurt his stock either. So you've got a jumbled mess there with the next 6 or 7 picks after the 108. And As far as I'm concerned right now, you could take just about any of those receivers. I guess we'll have to see where the landing spots fall and maybe make slight adjustments from there. But all in all, it was a great day for the receivers. Great day for you with those early seconds, mid seconds, even late seconds look great now. Some of the running backs that jumped up were Marshawn Lloyd from USC. Jaylen Wright from Tennessee had an awesome day at the combine. And so those two especially really jumped up the boards. There's the Isaac Guarnardo from Louisville, who came out of nowhere and posted just an amazing RAS score, second all time. So I think he's going to have a job in the NFL, somewhat in the role maybe of like an Antonio Gibson. Not sure if he'll quite score as many fantasy points. I can't project something like that. All depends on the landing spot for him, but I think there's an NFL team out there that can find a nice role for the guy. He came absolutely out of nowhere. Now, getting back to early in the draft, which I'm talking picks 101, 102, 103, 104, starts off with Caleb Williams. Now, this gentleman was a no-show for the combine, which seemed to upset a few. Personally, I'm not really bothered. I know where the guy sits, and I don't see any reason for him to have attended to possibly lower his stock. Now, some of you out there may be just following social media, and all that you know about Caleb Williams is from what you see on Twitter, X, whatever, and maybe other social media posts about him. Some of you may not have watched him actually play a college game. Now, for those of you who have nothing but judgment on Caleb Williams based on anything but social media, I highly suggest you watch the Chase Daniel breakdown on Caleb Williams. I'm going to post the link below. He does an excellent job. Chase Daniel, of course, is the ex-NFL quarterback. He played with the Chargers, a few other teams. But he does just a great job of breaking it down for the layman and gives you a good idea of what kind of NFL concepts Caleb Williams was running at USC, how stable he is as a passer. I got to say, watching the film, he looks a lot like Jordan Love in the pocket, very comfortable with his throws. He was making pro reads and passes, getting rid of it quickly. And other times, he was showing that Patrick Mahomes-esque escapability, rolling out of the pocket. That's the kind of thing that the NFL scouts are drooling over, why he became the number one prospect and what some consider a legendary prospect. So whether or not he becomes that, who knows? That's for him to decide, but he should be an exciting player nonetheless. Now, after you go through Caleb Williams and possibly Marvin Harrison at the 2, you'd have either Jaden Daniels or Drake May, maybe even Malik Neighbors at the 103, 104, 105-ish range. See, none of those picks actually gained value, would I say, from the NFL Combine. Those picks were all pretty high already, okay? Teams that need, dynasty teams out there that need a quarterback, this is a draft for you. Now, I had a team that needed a quarterback. I had Patrick Mahomes, and from what I gathered around the league, though, that it was that Jalen Hurts was available. So I went out and made a deal. Again, this was a rebuilding team, but what can I say? You never can go wrong having 2 stud quarterbacks, right? So in this deal, I was able to obtain Jalen Hurts, Devon Achane, whatever you want to say, and a 26th third for the 103, 25 first and second, as well as a 26 first and second. Now, both of those firsts do are tied into the champ from last year, so I think they've got a good chance of being late. Now, projecting out to 26, who knows? Might end up being the top pick. Who knows? I mean, you never know when you're selling picks 2 years out. But the fact that I was able to get Jalen Hurts supersedes my worries about that pick 2 years out. So now I am sitting on Mahomes and Hurts. I got A-Chain as my lone stud running back, and I'm working on the wide receiver room. I just have T. Higgins, Chris Godwin, Jahan Dotson, and a slew of picks. I've got the 108, 112, 3 seconds, 5 thirds. I am loaded up. Next season, I got my first 6 seconds. So I have a pretty good stable of picks that I can use to obtain maybe 1 or 2 other veteran wide receivers and still bring in some nice youth this draft season. So I'm pretty happy about that deal. From the other side, I do not mind it either. This guy wanted a bunch of first-round picks to inject some youth into his roster. He needed to shake things up. I can understand the worries about Jalen Hurts. He had a down season. They had to switch offensive coordinators. So we'll see what happens in Philly. I'm willing to take the bet on it, though. This is a guy who last year I would have been lucky to get Hurts for this haul that I gave up. But now doing it, I was able to get A-Chain on top of it. So I'm pretty happy. So moving on, though, I did want to mention the last player I wanted to talk about was Justin Fields and his crazy offseason so far. So many of you might have seen the post showing Fields getting all excited about heading to Atlanta. And that obviously hasn't quite been solidified. I do feel like Atlanta is going to ultimately be the landing spot for him, but who knows? He could still end up in Pittsburgh, maybe Denver even. I don't know, but he's going to be playing somewhere else. I am almost certain Caleb Williams will end up in Chicago and that Justin Fields will be taking snaps somewhere else and he will be a starter. So I do see Justin Fields still having a slight buy window here where you might be able to get him cheap for somebody who's a little concerned about him. You might be able to get him for just a first and then maybe see what you can flip him for later after he does get traded. Because once a guy gets traded, then all the excitement starts. So it's not a bad opportunity out there for you. Maybe you want to check into that. But if Atlanta does not get Justin Fields, I definitely see Kirk Cousins as the man possibly going there. I do think that Atlanta is probably looking to obtain Cousins first, and then Fields is their secondary option. So we'll see what happens with Cousins, and then maybe we'll find out what happens to Justin Fields. But that's all I've got for you tonight. As always, check me out on X at clemke_007. Sorry, clemke007_FF. And don't be afraid to smash the like, subscribe, and enjoy more content from the Birdhouse Dynasty show. And as always, never stop working.